it doesn't matter what sport it is, we wear sports as a passion. We are passion, and it's clear to the world now. And when I get in that arena, I know it's going to be time for me to lose my voice. It's going to be loud, and yeah, I still can't believe I'm going.
Let's go Raptors!
A group of Raptor fans have made the trip of a lifetime. Tomorrow night, they will be in Oracle Arena, hopefully watching the Raptors win an NBA championship. It was known as the fan flight, some lucky fans winning the trip at various viewing parties throughout the series. And one thing is clear, they're ready to see the Raptors take on the Warriors in Game 6. Greg Ross joins us live now from the Bay Bridge in San Francisco. Some of those fans are with you right now, Greg.
I guess I wouldn't be hearing the show yet.
Greg, can you hear me? Because, yes, we're in the show, sir. I think Greg is caught up in the Raptor fandom down there. I'm not sure if he could hear us. Hopefully we'll get a message to him that you are live on TV right now, Greg. Okay, we're going to get back to Greg. We can hear him. He can't hear us. Let's take a look at what the TSO Orchestra is doing for our Raptors. If you don't recognize this music, I'll give you a hint. It's to honor a certain team playing in the NBA Finals. Raptors Fever has officially hit the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. These musicians donning their Raptor gear today and playing the theme song from the movie Jurassic Park is to show their support for the team during the NBA Finals. Go, Raps, go. All right, let's head to Colette next. I know you love that. TSO joining in on the fun. We're going to try to get back to Greg in San Francisco, but you're going to talk about the San Francisco-type weather we're experiencing here, Colette?
Well, you know, yeah, I've been talking about it the last few days because they've had that record-breaking heat, right? Hitting 100 degrees or 38 degrees Celsius for a couple of days there, very close to it. Today, finally, it's still really nice, but finally things calmed down a little bit, and that real extreme heat has been pushing northward into the Pacific Northwest and away from the Oakland area. As for, well, our heat, not quite there, but still, what a lovely day today. So average high 23.3, pretty close today. These are unofficial numbers, but near that 21.4. And then our lows, well, pretty much bang on to where we should be for seasonal. There we sit right now, a little cooler towards the waterfront, towards the island. Temperatures have been just towards the upper teens there, mid to upper teens, in fact, with that breeze coming in more from the east, southeasterly elsewhere, and then we get into some low 20s. Markham at 22 right now, Oshawa 22, and Hamilton 23 degrees at the moment. A tranquil evening ahead of us, things looking good, quiet, dry. That will be changing, however, in the overnight hours, but way overnight towards tomorrow morning. As this system moves in, it will bring some showers for the morning commute, something to keep in mind. We'll get into more intense rains into the morning hours, and then some waves of showers with some breaks through the day tomorrow. So that's important for Jurassic Park. As we get into the evening hours, we should see some breaks in the precipitation before it comes back again. Totals, though, up towards Grey Bruce, just so you know, over 50 millimeters possible there, so a special weather statement. For us tonight, way late overnight showers develop 14. Tomorrow, with an easterly wind, it's going to be a cool, wet day, kind of like Monday, Dwight, 17 the high.
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
Halton police are warning about the dangers of what's known as the synthetic cannabinoids after 2 Milton teens unknowingly ingested the drugs. We'll have that story for you at 6:30. Toronto police have arrested almost 24 people who are now facing charges in more than 30 cell phone store robberies across the GTA. Today, investigators released video of a robbery which they haven't solved yet. This one happened around 8 p.m. this past Friday. 2 men burst into a cell phone store in the Lawrence and Allen Road area. They struck the employee with a baton. They also attacked an 83-year-old woman who was a customer. The suspects then demanded cell phones. Police were asked today what's behind the recent rash of cell phone store robberies.
Smartphones are extremely valuable right now, and there is a good market for these stolen stolen phones.
Police released these images of the 2 men wanted for the violent robbery. Of the 22 people they've arrested for the other robberies, half are under the age of 18. Investigators say some of those charged were recruited through social media. Imagine being followed through your phone. A new report from the University of Toronto Citizen Lab says it's happening more than we know. It's done by using something called stalkerware. As Talia Ricci reports, there are growing calls for lawmakers to crack down on the software.
It knows everything about you, but you may not even know it's there. Spyware apps are mostly marketed to employers who want to monitor their staff or parents who want to keep tabs on their kids. But that's not how frontline workers who speak with domestic violence survivors see this type of phone surveillance used.
When the abuser have access to this kind of technology, they found it. And we have no other choice. We have to transfer them to another shelter.
If all of a sudden a partner or ex-partner is showing up where they are and they might have not told them, or showing up at their work.
And this goes on.
Senior research associate Christopher Parsons at Citizen Lab says the software isn't hard to install. All that's needed is a couple of minutes and a passcode before they have access to this.
Everything from your geolocation, who you're texting, who you're calling, who's calling you. Maybe they're activating your camera or your microphone.
The report also criticizes the way some of the companies outwardly market their software for spying on a partner, like this one, the perfect tool to catch a cheating spouse. CBC Toronto reached out to several companies, but only one took our call. They argued they weren't doing anything wrong.
And check this out. I'm actually chatting with one of the companies right now, asking about checking up on a cheating partner, and they seem willing to help, even asking if I have access to his phone. Toronto police say that if someone's using spyware for the purpose of stalking someone, they could be charged with criminal harassment.
Really what we're hoping is that government looks at this, and regulators look at this, and law enforcement looks at this, and starts to really take this issue seriously.
The report recommends that the manufacturers of these apps be required to notify the person if their information has been accessed. The frontline workers we spoke with say that you should seek help in person or head to a service provider if you think that spyware has been installed on your phone. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
What can Canadian cities and towns do to protect themselves from cyber terrorists? That's the question being asked today after Stratford found itself the target of an online ransom attack, locking municipal employees out of city servers. Still ahead, why there isn't much cities can do to stop these attacks and how Stratford's mayor wants to change that.
As long as we are holding information that is deemed to be valuable to attackers or the new terrorists of the century today, I think we need to find a way to do it.
A Barrie woman was seriously hurt today after her car was smashed by a wheel that flew off another vehicle on Highway 400. As Kelda Ewan reports, the wheel came off a car driven by an off-duty police officer.
It happened in an instant.
A very serious situation here.
This is video from OPP Sergeant Carrie Schmidt, who rushed to the scene after a tire smashed into the windshield of this vehicle traveling southbound on the 400 near Highway 89.
That woman was injured seriously.
The wheel had flown off a car traveling on a northbound lane. It's since been confirmed the vehicle was being driven by a 56-year-old off-duty Toronto police officer. Orange Ambulance says this is at least the third response from them in the last month involving tires coming loose.
Unfortunately that it happens more often than you'd think.
It's not yet known what caused the tire this morning to come loose, but Dave Woolley, a head instructor at Toronto's Automotive Training Centre, also says there are precautions you can take beginning during your seasonal tire change.
When you take the wheel off, you want to check for dirt and rust on the hub, as well as on the rim. What'll happen when you attach the wheel to the car, if there's dirt in between the two, even though you tightened it to the proper torque specifications, the dirt can break down and then that leaves a gap. If it wobbles at all, it's not seated properly.
If you bring your car to the shop, you won't have to worry about all that, but Woolley says everyone should remember this.
You should recheck the torque within 500 kilometers.
That can easily be done yourself.
This is the kit you'd use to change the spare tire. This piece right here is called a tire iron. It should be the same size as your wheel nuts. What you want to do is check the wheel nut tightness. So put it on level, put your hand out as far as you can, put your weight on the end of the wrench, and push down.
You want to make sure there is absolutely no movement.
All it would take is a good pothole and the rim comes off.
OPP say it is expected the driver involved in this morning's crash will be charged. The victim is now recovering in hospital from multiple fractures. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
TTC is getting backlash today for its plan for Presto cards. Soon, tokens will be phased out, and the cards will be the only fare option, and they'll be exclusively sold at TTC stations and Shoppers Drug Mart locations. The problem is, what if your neighborhood doesn't have one of these? As Lauren Pelly explains, some say the plan will leave entire neighborhoods shortchanged.
Parts of it have changed.
Mike Sullivan has been living in Weston for 20 years.
Here in this part of the city, we are in a shopper's desert, if you will, because there's only 2 for 65,000 households.
He's among those worried about an exclusive arrangement between Shoppers Drug Mart and Metrolinx to only sell Presto cards at their stores and TTC stations, phasing out any outside corner stores.
What it means for people living here is a long commute to get your fare media.
In a new report, the TTC says these areas in red show the more than 1 kilometer radius around each spot where you can currently buy TTC tokens and passes. Once the tokens are phased out, the coverage areas shrink to this, with big chunks of Scarborough and Weston where Presto cards will be hard to find by foot. Mike and I decided to test it out.
So if we wanted to get to the nearest Shoppers in this area, what are our options?
So we can go north past the 401, we can go west over to Weston Road, or we can go south to Jane and Trethewey.
We briskly strolled down Jane Street. A couple minutes in, we hit the first of many convenience stores.
So if you wanted to buy tokens, you could do it right here, stop number 1.
Yes.
But if that gets phased out, we have a much longer hike ahead of us.
Exactly.
But it took us roughly 23 minutes to reach a Shoppers, a 1.5 kilometer trek. At today's TTC board meeting, Presto access was a hot button issue.
We are not going to meet the agreed upon terms of level of accessibility for having access to Presto. And so I think the TTC, we will be pushing back on that.
And our job is to make transit accessible to everybody. We've been in discussions with the TTC as to how we can fill those gaps because we share that concern.
The TTC hopes to phase out tokens by the end of the year, meaning Presto and all its problems will be the law of the land. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, we're going to try this again. Let's go back to Greg. He's live at the Bay Bridge in San Fran. And Greg, you found some Raptor fans down there.
Absolutely. I mean, some very, very lucky Raptor fans. They didn't know that they were going to be here maybe 2-3 days ago. I mean, nobody really knew if we were going to be coming back because the Raptors had a chance to clinch, but these guys weren't expecting to be coming here for Game 6 one way or the other. But they all won free tickets. In fact, they won all expenses paid trips from Air Canada because they were just hanging out at the different Jurassic Parks. We got Jurassic Park Kingston, we got Jurassic Park Pickering over here, we got Jurassic Park Brampton, we got Jurassic Park West in Mississauga. So these guys were all just hanging out and they found out. And still they tell me they continued to cheer for the Raptors to win Game 5, even though they knew they were going to get free tickets to go. You guys were still wanting to win in 5, even though you guys knew you were going to be coming here.
Yeah, I mean, I actually forgot that I got tickets and I was so dived into the game. And even after the game, it maybe hit me the next day that, oh, wait, it says Game 6. So here we are.
Great story here. This guy's watching in Jurassic Park Pickering. Jurassic Park East is, I guess, the official term. And you found out you won the tickets. Who's the first person you call?
My mom.
And this is his mom right here. Guess who gets to come on the trip as +1?
I'm so excited to be here.
Lifelong Raptor fan. You've been cheering your whole life?
Yes, and we're taking it home.
Now, you haven't been cheering your whole life because you were born 3 years after the team played its first game. But, I mean, how you've been a Raptor fan your whole life. How exciting is it to actually be here and ready to watch maybe the biggest game in the history of this franchise?
Honestly, no words can put it into perspective. Like, as we speak, I'm shaking right now for excitement. Like, this is going to be a really big game, not just for the team, but for the city, for the whole country. There's a lot of love for the Raptors, so just being able to be here, like, it's honestly the best thing ever. Thanks to Air Canada, or else I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's real emotion there. You know, it was funny on the flight coming here, Dwight. It wasn't just these guys. I mean, there were people from all over the place that were just coming on their own to watch this game. It was a plane filled with Raptor fans. There was a lot of people chanting, a lot of people cheering, a lot of "Let's go Raptors." So it was a pretty exciting, pretty interesting flight here this morning, Dwight.
Yeah, those folks behind you, those are the real fans outside of the corporate boxes. So they are ready for Game 6, Greg. How are the teams feeling, though?
Well, you know, they all met with the media today once again as they prepare for this big Game 6. And the Raptors really are focusing on just putting Game 5 behind them. And that's something that we know they've done very well this season. They've been able to shrug off these difficult losses. And I call it the Kawhi effect. He talked about it today.
Look at our mistakes, try not to make them again, and go out there in the next game and, you know, just play with each other, have one focus and, you know, one goal, and, you know, try to win it out.
We understand that the moment is the moment, but we still staying in it. And, you know, we're not too up, we're not too down. You know, we're just, you know, one game, hey, we lost it, now we got to move on to the next one.
There were a lot of question marks around whether or not Kevin Durant would play in Game 5. He did start the game, but now we know for sure that he won't be in Game 6 after rupturing his Achilles tendon. He, in fact, had surgery on that tendon today. It looks like he's going to be out for a long, long time, so he's going to be cheering on his teammates, possibly from a hospital bed tomorrow night. But they say that they're going to be going out there and they're going to use what happened to Kevin Durant in Game 5 to motivate them to try and even this series up at 3 games apiece.
I expect our fans to be the loudest they've ever been, especially in the name of Kevin and, you know, bringing his type of spirit he would bring to the fight and the competitiveness. I know our fans will do that because we deserve it, but more importantly, Kevin does for what he gave this team, this organization. There wouldn't be banners if it wasn't for his presence, so we expect our crowd to be loud for him.
Like Clay said, to protect our home court, feed off our crowd's energy, play for K, and try to keep our season alive. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can kind of tap into for energy tomorrow. We'll be ready.
And that crowd at Oracle Arena was very loud for Games 3 and 4. There's no doubt about it, but there were a lot of Raptor fans as well, and there could be even more. I remember after Game 4, it seemed like there was at least 1,000 people there from Canada. Well, there could be a lot more. These guys will be among them tomorrow night, cheering on the Raptors. I mean, it could be a very interesting environment. There are a lot of fans from the Bay Area that aren't happy with Raptor fans right now, and I don't think they like the idea that they were singing "O Canada" in their building, so I think they want to take back the Oracle Arena. They do not want to close out the final game at that arena because they're moving to San Francisco next year from Oakland, so this will be the last game for sure, Dwight, at Oracle Arena, and I know that Golden State fans don't want to close it out on a loss in the NBA Finals.
Well, we'll have to apologize to them after if it happens. Thank you, Greg.
You still can't run in the hallways at this school, but hopping, jumping, and playing are encouraged. I'm Lorenda Redekop at an elementary school in Milton. I'll tell you why it and other schools are adding these sensory pathways. That story coming up. So stick around.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Walking in the hallway just got a little more fun at a school in Milton. They've added what's called a sensory pathway, which makes playing in the hall educational. Lorenda Redekop went to check it out.
Leah Dan Carrito loves zipping down the hallway at school. All along, there are instructions. It's not designed to be a recess activity, but a quick break during class.
It's really fun to do, and a lot of kids in my class love to come here for a body breaks. So do I.
Keep fit and have fun. This is what a body break used to mean in Canada. The new version here is a few minutes during class.
I guess when you are like bored and like there's some free time, I guess you could do this instead.
The fun and games down the hall have the A-OK from the principal.
It promotes cognitive growth. It promotes spatial awareness and helps children with problem-solving abilities. 50-minute periods of learning is very difficult for many of our students, and so this just gives them that body break that they need to reset.
Today was the official unveiling at Sam Sherritt Public School, though kids first saw it Monday morning.
We had our music playing in the halls, and the kids were just wow, and just to see kids with their backpacks on go down the pathway and head to class, it was just, that's why we're here, that's why we're doing this work. So it was so exciting.
This isn't the first school to open a sensory pathway. It's part of a trend across the country. And the inspiration for this one came from another school. This CBC story from rural Manitoba helped a teacher in Milton refine her idea that started out last September. She called up administrators there for their advice.
It moved from some simple pathways to really representing literacy, numeracy, like how can we engage kids in not just a body break, but really pull in some of the other academics.
There we go. It was paid for by the Parents' Council and a charity arm of the school board. It's worth it to Noel Chung.
I think people should come to this school for this because it's really fun, cool, energetic, and good for when you need calming down.
There aren't many school days left, but the path will still be here come September. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Milton.
Both boys immediately started to vomit and then went unconscious. It was a life-threatening medical incident that they were involved in. Certainly, when you lose that vital signs that fast, dangerous things can happen.
It may look like marijuana, but it can be extremely dangerous. So what are synthetic cannabinoids and just what makes them potentially deadly? That story after the break. We have an update tonight on a story we first told you about last month. Police in Halton say they now know what substance two teens took before they both passed out and had to be taken to hospital. Alicia Son now with the details.
Two teen boys thought they scored a psychedelic drug to lace their cannabis with. Turns out it was something much different.
So the boys believed that they had mixed salvia and cannabis together, and salvia is an organic substance, right? Like cannabis, it grows in the ground.
Salvia divinorum is a plant known to have psychoactive properties. It in itself is a banned substance in Canada. That's what the boys thought they were taking to the party. What it actually was
Something called synthetic cannabinoids, and that is a chemical, that is a man-made chemical that was originally designed to try to mimic some of the same effects as cannabis.
And I was like, this doesn't look right.
Last month, neighbors noticed something wrong and called 911.
And they were shaking like they were having seizures.
It was just like something I've never seen, I guess.
So both boys immediately started to vomit and then went unconscious. It was a life-threatening medical incident that they were involved in.
First responders administered naloxone, thinking they were overdosing on opioids.
There's no risk in the officers administering it. In this case, it appears to have actually had a positive effect on another substance that wasn't an opioid.
The boys came to and were released from hospital shortly after. A sample from their grinder was sent to a Health Canada lab for analysis.
It was a man-made substance, some kind of plant-like substance that had been infused with the chemical, with synthetic cannabinoids, which is a chemical, right?
Yeah.
It's not, even though the word is cannabinoids, it's a chemical. It's not present in organically grown cannabis.
That's an important distinction to get out there.
It's not a safe alternative to cannabis either.
Are the boys not telling you where they got it?
We're having a hard time narrowing it down. They have cooperated to some extent, but we're still trying to figure exactly where it was. We've had some leads and we're still following those up right now.
Halton Regional Police are warning people that fake salvia is being sold at shops in the GTA and to avoid and report it. Alicia Son, CBC News, Oakville.
Meanwhile, pot edibles could be available by the fall on cannabis store shelves in Ontario. Brownies, cannabis-infused teas, cookies, and drinks will be part of the expanded list of products. They will also be available online. Cannabis has a long history in the treatment of ailments from aches and pains to insomnia. But while cannabis is well established in this country, the scientific jury is still out on the benefits of one key ingredient, CBD. Eric Rankin has more on what some claim is a medical marvel.
In the States now, I've seen ads that it's in hamburgers from one of the fast food joints. It's going to be in chocolate bars, in power bars, in bottled water.
It's yet to hit that sort of fever pitch on this side of the border, but some Canadians are already singing the praises of CBD.
When I'm feeling really stressed and on edge, I can sort of feel my shoulders relax a bit. It makes a difference, especially when you're having a frustrating day.
Full name, cannabidiol, and I had to practice that. Better known as CBD, is one of more than a dozen chemicals produced by the cannabis plant. You might have heard of THC, which produces that marijuana high. But while the chemicals stem from the same source, CBD is dramatically different from THC, as it causes no intoxication or high. Still, some are skeptical.
I'm not going to take it, but it is natural, and I know there isn't any THC in it.
Depending on where you are, CBD is advertised as a treatment for everything from zits to seizures. But here in BC, scientists and experts say its use revolves around a short list of ailments.
A lot of people want it for sleep. I personally think THC is going to help you a lot more with sleep, but if it relaxes you, does the trick, that's fine.
People are also turning to it for pain relief and indeed to address inflammation and modulate their immune system.
With legalization more than a year old, the literature around CBD's benefits is small, but it does seem to be rapidly expanding, especially here in the marijuana heartland, with UBC researchers starting to study whether cannabis can help treat opioid addiction.
We do have good literature from studies among animals, and so that is probably the best source of evidence at the moment.
Across the board, experts say CBD poses no risk of addiction or dependence, but it can interact with other medications, meaning you should consult with your prescriber if you want to try it.
Scientists believe that it does have anti-anxiety effects, antipsychotic effects, and anti-inflammatory effects.
The store owner we spoke with suggested new products like CBD creams will be on the Canadian market by the fall. Beyond that, researchers suggest the future of CBD all depends on the results of those clinical trials. Eric Rankin, CBC News, Vancouver.
Governments around the world see cyber attacks as one of the biggest security threats they face. And that threat doesn't just target national capitals and big corporations. Hackers are aiming at computer systems in small cities and towns, taking control of a lot of private information and holding it for ransom. As Katie Simpson tells us, it's a growing problem in Canada, and there's a new push for a national strategy to fight back.
Known for its swans on the Avon River and as the home to some of the best theatre in the country, there's little drama offstage in Stratford, Ontario. But the city is now adding its name to the list of Canadian communities held for ransom by hackers. In April, cyber extortionists broke into the city's computer system, encrypted part of the database, and demanded tens of thousands of dollars to regain control of the system.
I think we're one of many sitting ducks for cyber terrorists. They're not really interested in the information. They're interested in disrupting your ability to function, and that will allow them to get money. And
the mayor won't say whether Stratford has or will pay the ransom, but Canadians may be surprised to learn that decision is completely up to the city and its insurance provider.
My job is to deal with the investigation. It was the city's responsibility to deal with all the demands of the attackers.
A leader of the federal agency that helps protect Canada's communications networks says any city or business stuck in this position should reach out to him for help, but don't expect advice on meeting ransom demands.
The key action with paying a ransom is you have to measure that against how do I get my business back up and running. And that's an individual decision for an organization to work out.
Stratford isn't the first and won't be the last municipality to be targeted in this kind of attack. Law enforcement agencies across the country are flummoxed, and other than practicing good cyber hygiene, there really isn't much anyone can do to stop these criminals. That's why Stratford's mayor wants to work with other mayors to come up with a new security strategy.
As long as we are holding information that is deemed to be valuable to attackers or the new terrorists of the century today, I think we need to find a way to do it.
The mayor will make his pitch for a national strategy for municipalities at a meeting this fall. While he is grateful no sensitive or personal financial information was stolen in this attack, he wants to spare other Canadian communities from the trouble his city is going through. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Stratford, Ontario.
2 Canadian women kidnapped in Ghana more than a week ago have been rescued during an armed raid.
They have been in contact with the Canadian authorities and are undergoing the necessary evaluations following a traumatic incident like this. Preliminary indications that we have is that they are fine.
19-year-old Lauren Tilley and 20-year-old Bailey Chitty were in Ghana working for Youth Challenge International. They were taken at a golf club in the south of the country. Shots were fired in today's raid. Tilley and Chitty weren't hurt, but one of the 8 suspects was. It's not known when the pair will be returning to Canada. Thousands of protesters blocked the entrance to Hong Kong's legislature today to stop debate of a proposed extradition bill. Police used tear gas, rubber bullets, and water hoses to stop the demonstrators from storming the building. Authorities say at least 7 people were hospitalized. As Asia correspondent Sasha Petrusik explains, many fear the proposed extradition bill will give China too much control over the former British colony.
Since late last night and all day today, Hong Kong has been tense and full of people. People have blocked roads, including some major arteries. Subway stations have been shut down, and on many street corners, police have appeared in full riot gear. All of this has been aimed at trying to get rid of a law, an extradition law, that many in Hong Kong say they do not want and that they actually fear. If this is passed, then they say that it will allow the Hong Kong government to make an agreement with China that would see Hong Kong residents extradited to China to face the very harsh and unpredictable justice system just across the border here. Hong Kong is a semi-autonomous part of China, and it has its own traditions, including freedoms and rights, which it does not want to give up. It sees this law as giving up some very important freedoms and allowing China to kind of reach into this former British colony and have its way.
Now, the protest itself was held today because today there was supposed to be a debate in the legislature on this bill itself, the next step in getting it passed. The government here has insisted that it will pass. It has made some concessions, some changes to the bill, but in general it stays whole, and it says that it will continue to be debated and ultimately voted into law. But today it didn't get very far because some of the legislators couldn't make it into the legislature building. So the whole debate was put off until some unknown time in the future, but probably not very far. And in the meantime, all these protesters, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands that fill Hong Kong streets today, say that they are not going anywhere, that they're going to continue to circle the legislature to try to make life difficult and to try to make their voices heard in a place where they can make their voices heard, but where it appears not many people in government, at least so far, are listening. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Hong Kong.
I'm looking for Chef. You know, we got some actual living legends in this movie, and it was such an honor to even be considered for this role, let alone to land it and to have it turn out the way that it did. Very happy with it.
He's a bad mother. All right, after the break, I talk with the young star of the new Shaft film. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Jesse Usher's not even 30 yet, but he's already been acting half of his life. Now he's landing roles alongside legendary actors such as Samuel L. Jackson. I recently had a chance to talk with Usher about his latest role in the new Shaft movie.
I'm looking for Chef.
Who's asking?
John Chef Jr., your son.
My son? Junior?
Yeah.
Jesse, let's start with a lot of young actors would love this role, man. How did you land this one?
Man, this was a process. This was a lot of being in the right place at the right time, you know, speaking out what it is that you want, and I just vocalized my opinion about this movie, about this script, about the role. I spoke to the casting director, I spoke to Tim Story, I spoke to Kenya Barris, and I just told everybody, like, listen, I want to be involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how do we get involved? And just through being in the right place, they were like, all right, well, let's sit down, let's talk about it, let's see if we can work it out. I read with Sam, it went great, and here we are.
Tell us what it's like to work with Samuel L. Jackson. That's kind of cool, because there's some veterans in this film, right?
Yeah. You know, we got some actual living legends in this movie, and it was such an honor to even be considered for this role, let alone to land it and to have it turn out the way that it did. I'm very happy with it. I think the movie's hilarious. I love the take on it, and to be honest with you, just being side by side with Sam was like a really surreal thing, because he's so intimidating, but he's like kind of nurturing at the same time. He'll like curse you out but make you feel good about it. Like, I don't know, I've never met anybody quite like Sam, but to be honest with you, I'd do every project with him if I could. He's so professional, and I just loved every moment of working on Shaft.
Well, tell us about the movie. We know the Roundtree version, we know the Samuel L. version. Now we want to hear about the Jesse T version.
The Jesse T version is, you know, it's sort of a mashup, because it's all three generations. Richard is in it, Sam is in it.
You guys look really cool all walking together with the jackets, man.
But Richard plays that same Shaft character that we know and love him for. Sam does as well. So I come in and I'm bringing something new and fresh to the Shaft universe. And it was nice to have them kind of take on their roles in this same film, and then have them receive my perspective on it in a different way. And we just played off of each other, and then, you know, you get something new and fresh.
Do you need to see the past Shaft movies to understand this one, or can you just start fresh with your version?
You can start fresh. I went back and did a little bit of research. I wanted to capture the tone of the other films to see, you know, like, it's nice to know where it came from, to know where it can go.
Yeah.
And but to be honest with you, the first 10 to 15 minutes will catch you up to speed. If you're unfamiliar with Shaft, you've never seen any Shaft movie before, you'll know exactly what's happening before we really get into the meat of this movie. But that doesn't say, you know, that's not to say that you don't need or don't want to watch the other ones. I personally did, but you don't have to.
We'll finish with some of this. What do you think of Toronto? Have you been here before?
Yeah, man. So last summer I was here for 6 months. I was here for a while. Yeah, we shoot. I'm on a TV show called The Boys, which is on Amazon Prime. It'll be out July 27th, and we shoot that here.
Did the ladies know that he was in town?
Oh, come on, man. Stop playing. Let me get.
You were here for 6 months?
I was here for about 6 months, yeah.
Wow.
And I'll be back for another 6 months.
To shoot again. What do you think of the city, then?
I love the city. You know, you guys are passionate. The food is amazing, which always makes it easy. There's plenty to do. It's nice and clean.
All right, I got to ask you this, though, because I know you live in California.
Yeah.
And right now there's a little basketball thing happening with Toronto and Cali.
A little basketball thing. He's not talking about the NBA Finals, right? Only the biggest basketball thing. I'm rooting for the Raptors. I'd like to see them bring a championship home, especially because I'm going to be in town for a while. So it'll be nice, nice to celebrate. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be mad at that.
No.
But, you know, anything goes in professional basketball. You can't really discount anybody.
See that? He's rooting for our Raptors, young Shaft. We got this, Colette. We got it.
He had the right answer.
Yes, he did. Big
he better
time.
not have given you any other answer,
I'm
right?
with you on that one.
Raptors in 6. We got to do this. All right, let's go ahead and show you what's going on with our temperatures out there. We have had such a nice day, and now such a beautiful evening as well. Please enjoy it, because we've got a string of days where not necessarily every day will be rain all day, but where there's going to be a chance of showers. So the wet conditions are coming back to us starting as soon as tomorrow. So 21 degrees right now. It's cooled off a little bit in Hamilton. You were quite mild through the afternoon hours there. This is the quiet before the next storm. So just to the back, to the west of us, there are some lightning strikes in here with some embedded thunderstorms with this, but it will be pushing in. You can see it's quite a broad system. And frankly, behind it, we'll get kind of a reprieve, and then another 2 systems will be coming in and combining, and they'll have an impact into the weekend. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's deal with System 1, however. And as we get towards the morning hours, I think we'll start to see that morning commute getting wetter, and so it could be a little bit slow with some wet roadways as this begins to move in. Heavier stuff, though, still back to the north and to the west. Into the afternoon, some more waves. Probably we'll see the more significant rain to start the day, and then in the afternoon we start to get breaks. It comes back as showers and then breaks again. Of course, we'd like to see some breaks into the evening hours for those of you headed to Jurassic Park or some of the other outdoor viewing areas. And I think we will see some breaks in the precipitation, but it won't be over with. So you'll still have that risk of being damp all the way through the overnight hours. And we may be celebrating into Friday morning, and then on the backside of the system through the day Friday, we'll see improvement. So by afternoon, hopefully getting some sunshine coming back. That will be kind of the break there into Saturday morning, and then the next system arrives, bringing us some showers into Saturday later in the day, Saturday. So in terms of what we could see in the amounts of rainfall, the models have been kind of all over the place today. Looks like that 5 to 10 millimeters for Toronto, but we do have, as I showed earlier in the show, the special weather statement up towards Grey Bruce. There'll be more significant rain into Cottage Country. There, the amounts may be 40 to 50 millimeters. Overnight tonight, clouds will increase, 14 degrees, a mild overnight. Then tomorrow, it's going to be a cool day, not just because of the rain, but the winds coming in from the east. They're going to be gusty, so coming in basically off the lake. As we go into Friday, at least we'll see a rebound in the temperatures, a better afternoon. Saturday, early and late, that chance of seeing some showers. And Sunday for Father's Day, at this point, there's a risk, but I'm saying a mix of sun and cloud, and the temperature's looking pretty good. We're trying to keep a nice day in there for you fathers, Dwight.
Oh, man, no rain on our day. Thank you, Colette.
I know, you don't deserve that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As we head to break, here's a look at where the markets closed today. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back. A federal advisory council is recommending a national drug plan in Canada. It calls for taxpayer-funded universal coverage for prescriptions starting in January 2022.
What we found was, more than anything else, a strongly shared belief that everyone in Canada should have access to prescription drugs based on their need rather than their ability to pay.
The council proposes starting with a basic plan that covers essential drugs, but the goal would be to add more medications to the list over time. When fully implemented, the anticipated annual cost would be $15 billion. For more on the report and the political reaction, here's our senior parliamentary reporter, Julie Van Duzen. And Julie, what is the reasoning behind the panel's recommendations?
Well, it's not a new recommendation. Every time a task force or committee looks at this, prescription drugs, the end result is often a recommendation for a universal plan because drugs are expensive, and if you don't have a plan and you need prescription drugs, you're in trouble. And 1 in 5 Canadians have no plan. They have no insurance plan, so they make choices, Dwight, between medicine, food, and rent, and often medicine loses out. The Advisory Council reports that 3 million Canadians last year alone just did not fill out their prescription. because they just didn't have the money to pay for it. So Eric Hoskin concludes that in the end, if we had a plan, it would actually make Canadians healthier, they'd be going to the hospital less, and it would cost less because the drugs would be bought in bulk, which would save money. So, of course, the provinces would have to be on board, so this doesn't a snap your fingers thing and happen overnight. But certainly the government is considering this whole process. The health minister says she's looking at the report and the recommendations. The Prime Minister was asked about it in the House of Commons. Take a listen.
But we know there is more to do, and that's why we welcome the report by Dr. Eric Hoskins that talks about the next steps that we can move forward on as we ensure that no Canadian ever has to choose between paying for their medications or paying their rent.
Reaction then, Julie, from the Conservatives and the NDP?
Well, the Conservatives say the plan is too expensive and that the only Canadians that should be covered are the ones that aren't covered now, so they should fill in the gap. The NDP wants to move on a plan. They've been talking about universal pharmacare for some time, so they're all set to go. They say there should be no waiting period at all. Take a listen.
Studies show that that is a small percentage of people who don't have access to provincial plans, who don't have access to employee-sponsored plans. So that would be where our focus would go.
The Liberals haven't proposed their plan. There's a report that makes recommendations which support our plan, but there is no Liberal plan at this point in time.
So you can hear kind of election sloganing in there because we are heading into a campaign, and certainly the cost of prescription drugs will be an issue, especially for those Canadians who don't have a plan, so they'll be looking to which party offers solutions.
Yes, they will. Senior reporter Julie Van Duzen in our Parliamentary Bureau in Ottawa. Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
Britain has an ambitious new plan to fight climate change. Outgoing Prime Minister Theresa May wants to make the country's carbon footprint almost invisible, and she's hoping other major economies will follow suit.
Well, I believe that we have a moral duty to leave this world in a better condition than what we inherited. And that's why today we're announcing that we will be ending our contribution to climate change by 2050 and legislating for a net zero emissions target.
Net zero doesn't mean no pollution, though. It means they'll drastically reduce greenhouse gas emissions to the point that they can be absorbed by the planet. The plan also allows farmers and companies to offset their emissions by paying for trees to be planted elsewhere. A trio of Canadian satellites used to manage disasters, monitor forests, and help farmers blasted into space today. The RadarSat satellites lifted off aboard a SpaceX rocket from California. The $1.2 billion project replaces a radar satellite that has been in orbit since 2007. Once they're fully deployed, the three satellites will orbit the Earth every 96 minutes. They are expected to generate 250,000 pictures of the planet per year. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Mayor John Tory attended a flag-raising ceremony today at City Hall to mark Filipino Independence Day.
Try to communicate to you as a sign of my huge affection and respect for this community, and you know of my affection and respect, a few words in Tagalog, so forgive me if I don't do it very well. Mabuhay Pilipinas, binabati kita ing Pilipinas, ikaw ay talagang magiging kaibigan ko.
Better you than me, Mr. Mayor. The only word I know is they're pogie, because that's what the ladies at the Shoppers Drug Mart called me. He presented the community with a certificate officially proclaiming June as Filipino Heritage Month. Today, Tory praised the community for its many contributions to our city and said he'd make good on his promise to try balut, or balut. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that Filipino delicacy correctly. So,
sometimes it's just about the effort, not necessarily the accuracy.
thank you for that.
I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about him, although it could have been perfect,
Yes.
right? What do I know? I don't know. I know about the weather.
Let's hear it.
All right, let's talk about what's happening there. Through the overnight hours, we'll see partly cloudy, becoming mostly cloudy, and then showers developing towards tomorrow morning. 14 the overnight low, 17 tomorrow with wet conditions and windy too.
All right, we're going to leave you with more of our favorite song this week, the Toronto Symphony Orchestra playing the theme for Jurassic Park. Go Raps, go.